Thank you for being here. My talk is going to be more broad in the sense every part of it applies to what we're doing here, which is creating awareness for coal dust and being proactive and taking the measures that can prevent things from going out of hand. Um, However, this is also applicable to anything in life. So it's going to be much general. I'll just introduce myself. My name is Prabha Srinivasan. I'm a life coach and I work with people helping them create change in their life. So if there is a part of our life that we would like to change, if there is something that we would like to bring about that hasn't happened so far, how do you do it? What's the process? What works? So while some of this might touch on psychology and how we look at ourselves, a lot of it's just simple things, and a lot of it's just about mindset. What we believe, what do we have inside that we can bring about. So when we talk about change, usually there's, like Jono mentioned, usually it brings up fear inside us. So we might think about it and go, oh my God, this can be big, so I don't know how to manage this. So the first point is to actually address that inside us before we can go ahead and create any change, whether it be our own life or anybody else's life. It's about addressing that fear inside and turning it from a point of fear to a point of love. That's the very first step that has to happen. Because unless that happens, what otherwise happens is that we go ahead and start acting, but then there is a part of us that's not on board. There's a part of us that's still afraid and coming up with questions every now and then and go, what is that person thinking about me? What is this happening? Maybe that's, I'm not supposed to go ahead. So all of these inner doubts, inner questions keep coming up. So the first step to do is to work with that fear. And fear, like any other emotion, you've got to think about it like a little baby. So how do you work with a little baby? You work with, baby steps, and you let it take its own pace rather than comparing it to any others around. So allowing it to take its own pace. And when I say that, what I mean is, for example, so if we have, let's just have a example as finding a new job. Okay, so this can be something that can be broad enough that anyone can relate to. So if currently, say, for example, you're in a job where some part of it's working but not all of it, and you'd like to get into a job that satisfies you, that fulfills you and ticks all the boxes, at least most of them, then the first thing to do is look at yourself and go, how do I feel about this? How do I feel about getting into this new job? What parts of me are not on board? And that might bring up all the questions inside, which would be like, I'm not capable to do these things, I'm not qualified enough, I'm not sure how much more money I can get. So a lot of those questions will come up. So working with those and going a little bit deeper, just spending a bit more time. And a lot of it's easier when you have someone outside looking at it from a third person's perspective, but saying that it's not necessary. You can definitely do this on your own. You don't need another person all the time. You can do it, and writing is a really good tool. It can replace a life coach pretty much. So writing down how you feel about it, what parts of it are you not on board with, what's there that's making it afraid, making it a bit overwhelming. So writing it and getting it to the bottom of it and going, okay, this is it, this is what it is, this is what scares me. The next part is to then go and think about, what would I like? A lot of us don't even go there. I know it's upset, but we don't even go there in terms of what you would like and what the details are. How does it look like? What does it feel like? What exactly does that mean to you in your life? So when you get that new job, what are the things that are going to happen that are not happening now? So we don't even go there because we caught up on the fear. So unless we work on the fear, we don't go there and we think, oh, I've been looking for a job for so long, there's nothing. And, we often give up. So the second part, after you've worked on that fear and understand what exactly it is that's upsetting you, then this next step is to go and take a little bit of switch and go, okay, this is what I want. This is what it looks like. And there are a few questions that we can work through, but for today, I'll just leave that out. But once we have that big picture in mind going, okay, this is the job that I want and these are the aspects and this is how this job is going to make my life different. So, it can be a job, it can be a relationship, it can be, creating a change at a global level, anything it can be, but this is how it is going to impact my life. So that's where we start. Because when we focus just on the outside, what happens is then we don't know which place from inside that we operate from. And people, when they listen to it, they can't really understand because they can't anchor onto you. So it's got to start from you. How does this impact my life? How is my life going to be different when this happens? And then the next step is to go and think about the people around you. How is this going to impact my family? How is this going to impact my community? What is going to be different when this happens? And spending a bit of time there, again, writing's a really good tool, or having someone with a third person perspective to be able to talk this through. And going into the details of how is this going to make life more positive and more enjoyable for people around me. So the first one is us, the second one is the people in our life, the very first circle. And then the third one is going into the larger scale of the planet. And thinking, how is the planet going to be a better place because, or as a result of this action that I'm going to take? And again, spending time on it. This is really critical, but there's a statistics that says if you can focus on something for just 7 seconds continuously, that's going to happen. But the tricky part is we don't do that. The fear comes in and it stops us from focusing on that. So if you think about it like a daydream, if you can just focus your thoughts on the change that you want and just let yourself dream of how things are going to be, how nice it's going to be, just for 7 seconds, then that starts happening. So it's a matter of spending time and looking at what is the output, what would I like, how can I then make it happen. So instead of going into the house straight away and going on to Seek and starting to apply for new jobs with our example, it's more about understanding ourselves first. Why do I want this? How is this going to make life different for me, for the people around me, and for the planet? And then going back into the how. What are the next steps? And just three steps that I put together just to give you an example of conscious creation, because that's what the topic is that I wanted to address today. Conscious creation, in the sense your life's not happening by default. You're not blaming other people for what's happened. You're taking things into control and creating something consciously, a life that works for you. So when you have a little topic in mind, there are 3 steps that you can follow that will take you there. And again, these are 3 steps. There's obviously lots of other things that come into play, but I'll give you a broader understanding of it. So the first one is intention. Being clear on your intention of what is it that you want. And a lot of times the intention that we think is the real intention is not. Because, for example, money, a lot of people have goals around money, but money is not really the goal. It's what the experience is going to be when you have that money. So instead of saying I want a job that pays me blah blah blah, it's going to be more about I want this sort of lifestyle, I want this sort of contribution that I want to make in people's life, I want this to happen, because that's the end goal. So focusing on the end goal is your intention, setting that intention first off. So going back to what we're talking today about cultist awareness, it's about setting the intention to say, this is the change that I would like to bring about so that my community, the world at large, can enjoy these things. These are the attributes, these are the qualities that I would like them to enjoy, the future generation that's coming up. So that's your intention, and that's your first step. The second one is initiation. So think of it like a token advance. So when you go and have a look at a house and you really like it and you want the real estate agent to take it seriously, you give them a token advance and say, hey, look, I'm really interested, but I've got to get all the other funds sorted, so just give me a little bit of time, all the paperwork, but I'm really interested, so I'm putting my token advance in here. So give them a $50 and say, can this please be on the record? It's like that. So initiation is about taking that first step. It doesn't matter what that first step is, just taking that first step, whatever feels right, just taking it and doing that, because that's your sign to the world around you to say you're serious enough about this and you want to make it happen and you are putting yourself wholeheartedly into it. So that's your second step, initiation. And then the final one is inspired action. So inspired action is something that never ends. So for example, Sandy today has put this event together, and a lot of it would have been coming from inspired action. So somebody says something, somebody mentions something, and then you go, yeah, I could do that. That's an inspired action, rather than going massive action, which is like just printing a flyer and giving it to every single person on the street. That's massive action. And the problem with massive action is that your intention's not fully on board, whereas with inspired action, you're acting with the universe, you're acting with the world around you to have everybody on board. So it's a combined effect. It's not just a one-person effect. It's not about the ego. It's about everybody. So it's like a play. You're playing with the world around you to make this happen into something that snowballs into something amazing. So the third step is that the inspired action, taking that inspired action and being open for taking more and more of that. And if we go to our example before about, finding a new job, you might spend hours looking up on Seek, but then the actual job comes from somewhere else. How often does this happen? You meet somebody at a barbecue and then they talk about a position that's there, or somebody's looking for someone, and then that's the job that you end up, getting onto. This is not just by coincidence. It happens because the moment you set an intention, the rest of the world, it's like the rest of the world knows it, and there's parts of it that's acting to help you. And allowing it to influence your life, allowing other people to also contribute, then makes it easier rather than thinking, I have to make this happen all by myself. Because believe it or not, it's not just us making things happen. It's the whole world doing things together. We might think that we are just doing it by ourselves, but it's not. Even simple things like finding a job. So keeping your mind open for taking inspired action, being open for what you're hearing, what are other people suggesting, what are you seeing around you. All of those have little hints and clues for you to say, hey, look at that, maybe that's going to work, or maybe this is going to work. So keeping yourself open for it. So those are the 3 steps, just broadly, in setting your intention, doing an initiation, which is your first step, and then continuous inspired action rather than massive action, taking action based on inspiration. So those are the 3 steps that just broadly, and this is applies to any change in life that you would like to bring about. If there is anything particular that you would like to talk about, I'm here. I've got a stall here, so you can come and talk to me about it. I have some, free things that you can take and keep yourself on that journey of thinking positively, because a lot of it's really just thinking positively. Being able to loosen that grip of the fear and being able to think that things are going to happen. There is hope. So if you'd like to talk more, I'm happy to have a chat with you. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.